what happened here? Because I thought it was going to be a bigger pop, that it was going to close higher, and then it didn't. It faded.
Yeah, so it did have an initial pop of roughly 30%, but at the closing, it was only 20 cents up. It's a very competitive week. We have more than 15 IPOs this week, and you're really competing with a lot of different deals for investors' attention. And on top of that, it's not a great week for Chinese ADRs either. Yesterday, you have a company had to downsize massively from 14 shares to 14 million shares to 3 million shares. So by comparison, for a deal of DD's size, it's not trading too poorly, but it'll be interesting to see if it breaks offer price tomorrow.
Did at any point the political risks of a Chinese company listing here in the U.S. factor in here?
Yeah, that definitely would be something that investors are thinking about. It's a very tricky time for Chinese company. And in fact, we haven't actually seen that many Chinese companies listing in the US this year. Comparing to 2018, 2017, those really were like the prime time for Chinese ADRs. And that's no longer the case. We're seeing more like Israeli companies, more like South American companies, not so much Chinese. But even not in the US, in its hometown, in China, it's getting increasing scrutiny by regulators. They had to update their filings to say that antitrust is potentially becoming an issue even in China. So externally, internally, it's a very challenging time for DD.
Yeah, there's a tag crackdown, but broadly speaking, is this a sign that investors' appetite for these pricey, growthy stocks is really starting to wane and there's a lot more caution?
Yeah, it has been very competitive in the IPO market. There have been so many deals, and investors are really selective these days. They really have to pick and choose what are the ones that are must-have, what are the ones that they're good to have. The good thing is that there are a lot of public investors that need to get into the stock because it's potentially going to get into indexes, and they need that exposure in China tech. So that is still giving DD an edge because of its sheer size and the scale that they have in China. But because of the selectiveness that investors are seeing and the week that they are listing, therefore it's not seeing that big of a pop that they expect, and trading up like 20 cents instead.